Oh my God, I've just gotten out of seeing John S. Rad's Dangerous Men. Oh my God. Oh my God, my God, my God. I'd forgotten about this film. I had read about it when it had started playing in Los Angeles in like 4 or 5 theaters in 2005, 2006. I'd forgotten about it. I think the world had forgotten about it, but Drafthouse Films has not forgotten about it, and they are doing a theatrical release of this film. I just got out of the Drafthouse here in Austin, the Lamar Drafthouse, where they're actually showing it digital. I think in some locations the Drafthouse is showing it 35 millimeter, but this was a digital showing, but it still had like the cigarette burns and the scratches and the stuff, so it was a very suitably messed up presentation, but it still looked beautiful. I mean, it just looked kind of grindhouse retro vintage. What the hell to say? I thought I'd do a video on Dangerous Men, because there's not too many videos. There's not, I mean, beyond just the grindhouse, the Drafthouse Films trailers that are on YouTube, nobody's talking about this thing. No, well, because who saw it, I mean, I've read articles that everyone who bought a ticket to this asked for their money back. I mean, it made $70 on its week, and it was self-released by the writer, producer, director, everything. This guy John Rad, who was an Iranian filmmaker. He's an immigrant. He moved his family here in the early 80s after the Shah was deposed in Iran. And he was apparently this rich architect, and he made films in Iran, and he came here and started working as an architect, and then in the early 80s he had this, he wanted to be he was a filmmaker in Iran. It's very mysterious. They say he's made between 3 and 11 films in Iran, and there's a really good article on Dangerous Men in Vanity Fair that you can check out. There's a few other articles. There's only really like 1 or 2 interviews that the guy did, because he died in 2007 of a heart attack. So he died very shortly after this film, which was self-released. He just put it into a few theaters in Los Angeles himself, kind of four-walled it, did some midnight screenings. Nobody really caught hold of it. So he started making this movie, Dangerous Men, and started shooting some scenes around 1985 and 86, and then started shooting some scenes, I guess, in the mid-90s. There's a calendar in the film that's from 1995. And then eventually released it into some theaters, just self-released it. He didn't have a distributor. He just, bought out the theaters and put it into these midnight shows. And so it was like a 26-year, experience. That's what the promo material is saying from Drafthouse. 26 years in the making, and I always was curious. I mean, because people started to talk about it. The film people in Los Angeles, the people who hunt this stuff, the kind of people who hunted Birdemic and Tommy Wiseau and The Room, and those types of geeky hipster, what is being called kind of outsider cinema, kind of the children of outsider music, the kind of Daniel Johnston and what Jandek and whatever have, it's that same type of feeling that you have this geeky or nerdy thing, and the idea is that you can have that same experience. If you've got a little bit of that in your soul, you can reach out to these guys who are outside of conventional art, and doing their own thing. And John Rad was definitely doing his own thing with this film. I didn't know if it was going to be just some kind of hipster whatever, and I'm pleased to say, oh my God, believe the hype. I mean, I was really excited. I don't know why, I was just so excited. I mean, I had many years ago, as I said, many years ago, I read that LA Weekly interview with John S. Rad, which really wasn't much of an interview, I mean, at all. It was just, I mean, when you start reading about this guy, you start coming up with more questions than answers. really, because I mean he just died so soon after he got this film out and finished it. And the interview is just basically this guy met him in this LA Weekly article. It's very short. This guy met him at a coffee shop, and he was like, "Yeah, I wrote a lot of songs, and my father had a saying that impossible is impossible." So that's how he lived his life. He had the saying, impossible is impossible, which I guess he meant to say nothing is impossible. But again, that's the kind of messed up, kind of twisted type of logic that you see in Dangerous Men. And I also saw that website with that crazy with that still of that black dude who has this gun. He's like, I don't know. It's a fun. I was just thinking about that website, man. That Dangerous Man website. They put it back online. It's available. I think at dangerous-men.com. Oh my God. What a. It's like I just saw that website, and then there's this song that plays over it. You're like, what the hell is this? So now we're this far into the video, and you're like saying, okay, John, I don't know what Dangerous Men is, and what is it? What is going on with this experience? Dangerous Men is what is the movie? It's kind of an action movie. It's kind of a murder revenge thriller, kind of, but it seems like it's maybe 2 or 3 movies that have been combined. It seems like there's some shooting that was done in 85 and 86, and this was a story about a couple, a man and a woman, who are going to be married. They're engaged, and they go on this beach, and the guy is murdered by these 2 motorcycle guys. And then the woman seeks out, after this, she seeks out bloody revenge. So it's that kind of cliched, yeah, I mean, it's like that cliched kind of rape revenge thriller. It's not really that rape. She seems to seduce the men and bring them in and kill them. But then it seems like he shot that, and he's like, no, let's add on this idea that the guy who was murdered, he has a brother who's a police detective, and so there's this whole other police detective story, a rather random police detective story of the police detective trying to find the killer of the brother, and then he gets involved, and he finds out that there's this criminal mastermind called Black Pepper, and then he starts going after Black Pepper. And then Black Pepper, and then the film ends with the whole Black Pepper in this scene with the blind knitting attempted rape scene, and I don't know. I feel like I'm spoiling the film, but I feel like nothing could spoil this film. I feel that. If you're, you need to prepare as much as possible when you're going to see this film. You need to prepare. You need to prepare your mind. You need to open your mind, because the world of Dangerous Men is full of tangents and weird stuff and things from that go beyond conventional film grammar. A lot of repetition. I mean, the movie has this smooth jazz score, elevator, it just seems to be looped. There's like 2 or 3 tracks that just seem to be constantly looped and looped and looped, and then scenes just seem to kind of repeat. The same scene, the same characters will do the same things like 2 or 3 times. It's just like, if you come up with a good scene and a good idea, it seems like in John Rad's world, you just kind of repeat it. You repeat it a couple times. Like a conventional filmmaker would try to build like a rhythm and a balance, but no, this is like, people are combined by the old low budget cliche of telephone conversations, and you know, you have one character like, oh, hey brother, how is it going, you know, and then, you know, then there's like flashbacks and dream sequences which are really difficult to understand. They're flashbacks and dream sequences and flash forwards, and I mean, it's, and then naked old men running around in the desert, you know, and it's like, that also seems, another thing that I kept kind of focusing on is that, like, in films usually you cut out the legwork, which is to say that, you know, like scenes of actors like walking out of cars, or like, you know, walking somewhere, or like, you know, like picking up a paper and doing this, and like usually you cut from the main, you just have characters here and there, and you cut to the main motion in a scene. But it seems like John Rad's kind of inverted that, where it seems like a lot of times that, you know, like characters just kind of teleport into areas, and then the legwork scene with the like characters just like staring at something, or like walking around, or like, you know, like waiting at a door for like literally a minute, you know, I mean, like in literal time, like just standing there for like which in like movie time is like, feels like an hour, because it's just like, you know, 30 seconds of a character just kind of, you know, I'm maybe exaggerating, but like 15 or 20 seconds, just like, you know, I mean, the opening scene, which is supposed to be some kind of suspense scene, is like that. It seems like it's cut in this very experimental manner. It goes beyond kind of incompetence and comes into something else. It's very, very odd. I mean, the actors all seem amateur. I don't know what the hell happened to the lead actress. I mean, she seems like, what the hell's going on with her? She was pretty good, actually. The lead, I mean, part of it almost feels like one of those American our Action International pictures, like a shot on video '90s film. You know, there are parts of it that kind of look mid '80s, and then it cuts to something in the '90s. But I mean, overall, I think it's not too disturbing. I mean, the fact, you know, styles that are semi-changing are the least of this film's worries. That's just not. But I mean, I mean, the whole black police detective story, and then I don't know. There's so many questions. There's so many things in my head about the film, because I've just gotten out to watch The Chief. Oh, I love that the Drafthouse Films is doing these character posters, and the Chief is his posters are exasperated, you know, and he's like one of the most exasperated characters I think I've ever seen in film. You look at him, he's just like tired and exasperated. His world is just like, you know, he chases after Black Pepper at the very end, and he has this dog-eared look, and I think the dog-eared look is probably because because John Rad shot him in like this one close-up, and he uses this footage from this close-up shot, or just the same take of the same close-up that he shot. Like, he seems to use it like literally 4 or 5 times, you know. I mean, I know where he's coming from, where you just kind of, you've got this footage of this guy and you're trying to cut this footage together. And so John Rad uses a lot of low-budget tricks, the telephone trick, the stuff where you have the newscaster talk about linking together. He very rarely uses ADR to link things. In fact, there's a lot of production sound in this film that just sounds horrible, you know. It's almost like unconscionably bad. But I mean, it's a difficult sell. It's a difficult film. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, some of these actors are like from another planet. They're from a, you know, it's like, where the hell did these people come from? Where are they going? The weird things beyond film grammar, the idea that, you know, this footwork, this foot traffic, that's the important part, that the actual scenes are just kind of linked together. I mean, and then the smooth jazz, and then oh my god! And then the end, and then it's like, and my head is just exploding. I mean, it does feel like literally 2 or 3 films edited together in this weird, insane jumble. And I think, as I was saying before, it's like it feels kind of like an American international picture, action international picture. Like those David A. Pryor, like, shot on, or direct to video rather, type things. But then it also feels kind of like there are moments where you get a kind of pulse of the city, like Michael Mann type, like crime drama stuff. But like Michael Mann, like collaborating with Daniel Johnston, like that Austin-based kind of outsider musician. So it's like this weird disconjunctive thing. Is it worth going to see? Is it worth the hype? Yeah, man, absolutely. It's a fun time. It's a fun time. Like, this is a movie that if you watch, you're not going to forget it. Oh yeah, you're not going to forget it very soon. It's a special, special movie, and the right audience is just going to eat this thing up. And I'm really, really glad it's getting the kind of exposure that it deserves.